That was going to be a surprise. Let me get rid of that. All right. So it is Friday, and you are here at Litvak Leadership Live. I'm here with my good friend Shannon Yarger today. But before we jump in with Shannon and talk about a topic that everyone will have an opinion on and know about, I want to point out to you that you are here at Litvak Leadership Live. We're broadcasting on Facebook in a few places. We're broadcasting on YouTube. We're even on Twitter. So I want to encourage you to go to Facebook and YouTube, type in Litvak Leadership, hit like, ring the bell so you get notified of these broadcasts and the pop-up broadcasts that I have during the week when I just feel like talking about things off the cuff. But today we have a much more structured conversation, talking with my friend and neighbor and coffee partner, Shannon Yarger. We're going to be talking about leadership in basically business, the manufacturing industry and whatnot like that, and how it has changed. So Shannon, how you doing today?
I'm great, Sean. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I am so excited. I remember when we were messaging back and forth on this, and you said to me so humbly, well, I'm not sure what I would have to talk about. And I was like, yeah, sure. So let's jump into it. The first thing I'd love to talk about is the labor shortage. Everyone knows that the additional monies for unemployment ended Monday. Everywhere you go, you see now hiring signs. Any industry that employs people is short-staffed. Shannon, what do you see as our roles as leaders at various levels within organizations? How do we lead our teams during this period of labor shortage?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sean, because the labor shortage has created an inflationary situation in labor cost, right? So as you pointed out, we can see everywhere a lot of traditionally minimum wage jobs are now paying what in my business would be normal factory type level wages, right?
Yeah.
$15+ an hour. And when you're working in a factory where it may be hot, it may be cold in the winter, it can be hard or stressful work, sometimes long hours. It's kind of hard to compete with an air conditioning job in a Walmart paying the same money. So definitely that's a challenge. And then also you have the pressure on your profits, right? If your labor costs go up, your fixed costs are up, then that's putting pressure on your profitability, and you have to find creative ways to offset that inflation, right? And through continuous improvement projects or whatnot. So it's a very challenging time, I think, to be a leader or a manager in just about any industry today.
Oh, and I'll tell you, I mean, I'm in a business development role, and you and I had this conversation as we were in the green room, I guess we would call it, where proposals that I've given people earlier this year, when they've come to me 3, 4, 5, 6 months later and said, hey, we think we're willing and ready to move ahead. I was like, yeah, by the way, the labor market, let me raise my hand here, is incredibly dynamic. And the cost of labor has increased 40%. So here's your new rate. And they look at me and they literally say, what do you mean? And now, so you would be like an end user that I would sell to, Shannon. If I said that to you, would your response be, what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think initially that's absolutely what it's going to be, right? But because don't forget that I've also suffered the inflationary increase as well in terms of labor cost. And now it's kind of like a double whammy. Now my services providers are also increasing their rates that they charge me for services. And it is a double whammy to the industry. And I got to tell you, at least in my industry, which is the automotive industry, what we're starting to see now is that a lot of the manufacturing community to the supplier industry are now going back up in the automotive industry to the Fords, the General Motors, the Chryslers, and saying, we need more money for these products because we're now in a situation where we could be either very near to or in loss making sales on products that have usually thin margins to begin with.
Absolutely. I mean, people do not realize they talk about these big companies that are making all this money, i.e., Amazon. People talk about Amazon like that, and I'm sure that Amazon would tell you that they're making a fair profit. And please understand me clearly. I am not dissing profit. Profit is a good thing because that is the engine that gets more businesses going. But people don't understand, I think, the razor thin margins that a lot of organizations work on. And that if you don't have the labor, you're going to end up paying people overtime. But even more so, and I'm going to pivot here a second, after you've gone through the interview process with people and you hire someone that smells good, looks good, and says all the right things, how do you get them to show up to work? Because so often there was once a time where if someone didn't show up for 2 days, you'd write them up. Now, I don't think that's happening anymore. And people pretty much come and go as they please because otherwise you're not going to have anybody there.
Yeah, it's certainly a dynamic issue. And I think it's probably broadly spread across all industries, right? The ball is definitely in the worker's court at this point in terms of the management worker relationship, because again, like you said, things that you may not overlook 2 years ago, you're having to overlook now because you simply can't replace the person. So maybe it's better to have them there 4 days a week instead of 0. So.
Yeah, I think with flex time and work from home, people really can call their own schedule. Plants are running 24/7. I don't know of a single plant that I have called on that isn't running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to keep up with the demand of their product. Not necessarily because the demand has gotten so high, but it's a combination of increased demand and being short on labor. So they've letting people work whatever shift they want, and they just keep going. What is your experience there?
Yeah, that's absolutely my experience too, Sean, as well. And you have to also add in the automotive industry, you also have to add in the dynamic of customer orders, because right now, as pretty much everyone's aware, the automotive industry is being severely impacted by a microchip shortage.
Yeah.
And so what we have is we have customers that'll go up one day and down the other, and up one day and down the other. We've seen, in our local area, a couple of the big Ford plants have experienced some significant downtimes in the last several months. A lot of plants around the country, you see it on the news all the time. So it's a blessing and a curse at the same time, because your sales are dropping, but it gives you a little bit of breathing room to make what you need to make for other customers. That would have been near impossible if everybody was ordering at full, what we call MPW levels or max levels in the automotive industry. We just flat wouldn't be able to make it.
So what do you think that the leaders, the managers, the executives, those that are in a role of being, there's George Washington at the front of the ship, okay, leading the way, looking out ahead. Okay, what is their role? Because I would think, and I hate this phrase, now more than ever, okay, the leader's role is so important to help the team and support the team, because the team is tired. The team is frustrated. What do you see as that role for, middle, upper, and executive managers to work together to rally the troops?
Yeah, actually, this is a big situation going on right now in my day to day, and really, what we're focusing on at the moment is communication, because the people that work for you, the people that are on your teams they're watching the news just like we are, and they see a lot of doom and gloom, and obviously they're worried about their jobs or worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. So we found that the best way that we can retain people is to make sure that they are crystal clear informed on what the situation is, what we see coming down the road, how we're performing as a business in terms of profitability or return on sales, and making sure that communication is concise and complete. And that's difficult today in the day of COVID, right? Because you can't have the all employee meeting like you used to. So we're trying to be creative using digital systems, Industry 4.0, to try and get the message out to computer screens where the people are, or on TV monitors in the break rooms and those sort of things. And then inviting people to individually come to us as leadership and say, I don't understand this. Can you explain this to me? Right? Because sometimes what we understand is common terms and KPIs and in terms of profitability, ROS, OBPI, all those things. Most regular people don't really understand that because they don't deal with it every day and they don't work in it. So once you explain it to them, a lot of times it goes a long way and makes them feel a little bit more secure. And we found that that's helped us with retention, because retention is a big worry right now, right? Because now you got a lot of places that are throwing money around, right, and throwing big hourly rates around, and so there is people do have an opportunity to choose where they work at this point, right?
Absolutely.
There are more jobs and more workers.
Well, and retention, I think, is the key to inhibiting turnover. Any industry that is very dependent upon labor is going to have turnover. And it's not always wages that keeps people from leaving a job, but it is those soft benefits, the culture of an organization, the opportunities for training and certification for those go-getters who, really want to go after something, people who aren't necessarily living for the weekend. Those are the things that get those people to stay with an organization. But let's talk about those people that do live for the weekend, that they look at, when Wednesday, or what was it? Thursday is Friday Eve. I have a friend who doesn't live for the weekend, but he calls every Thursday Friday Eve, which I just don't get. But people who have low morale, and to me, part of having low morale is living for the weekend. That, it's just, everything's going to be great these 2 days, and then I go back to be a wage slave. How do you encourage people with low morale to look at things differently, to adjust their attitude, to encourage them to see, the shiny object on the hill, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal opinion is that you got to have what I call skin to skin contact, right? You got to be out in your organization, talking to the people, make sure that you know their name, make sure you know a little bit about their families, right? Ask them how they're doing, how their grandkids are doing, or how their children are doing. And maybe they got a child off at college or something. That encourages communication, right? And communication is key. In terms of morale, to me, and this is my personal opinion, but morale is highly based around, I'm sure you've heard about it, the cathedral model, right? You got most of your workers are in the middle.
I have not heard this, so go on.
Okay, yeah. So if you draw a chart and you have 3 sections, most of your workers are in the middle, and they're called watchers, right?
Okay.
And then on the other side, you have people that push the boundaries, right? And then on the other opposite side of the chart, you have your performers, right? So
okay.
The people in the middle are always watching how you treat the people that perform, and also watching how you treat the people that are not, the people that are pushers. And you want them to move toward the performer side, right? And a lot of that is your employees watching how you treat the people that maybe are taking the long smoke breaks or the, long lunch breaks or walking away from their job or these sort of things. And you got to make sure that it's visible that you're out there coaching and counseling those people so that they'll say, yeah, I don't want to move over there. I want to stay here. Or you're also out there praising the people that are excelling, and they're going to say, I want to move over to that box, right? I want to move over there and excel so that, we can receive some of that glory, right? And so that's a big part of what I see as far as morale. And it's a challenge during these times because especially when you get into the dichotomy of the older, more seasoned workers and the new millennial type workers, because they have two totally different ideas about what a work day should be. Right. Okay. And there's a lot of frustration there sometimes between those two groups of people in the workforce. And you got to be careful and maneuver around it because the millennial worker is the future. Right. And we got to try and mold them, coach them, and counsel them into being what we need them to be, but also be open to things like you mentioned earlier, flexible work, right? Work from home, work schedule differences. Like, here's your job. I don't care if you get it done at 11 at night or 10 in the morning. You got to be open to that in some ways, in some fashion.
I mean, I know some, and I was going to ask you, what is the difference with millennials? I know some millennials that during COVID, left the city they were in. They were still working, and they went to Florida for an extended period of time because they could. And they probably worked even longer hours than they would have worked otherwise. But when they were done, they took a 1-block walk to the beach. And that's some interesting stuff that has gone on during COVID. I saw an article recently that said, the companies that are saying you can work from anywhere are lying to you if you're in a non-manufacturing role. At one point in time, all these companies said, yes, you can work remotely. You can do whatever you want to do as long as you get it done. But now those same companies are coming out and adjusting people's wages because they're saying, well, we hired you initially and you were living in an area where the cost of living's here. And if you don't stay there and you move where the cost of living's here, we're going to cut your wages. Do you think that's something that businesses should be doing?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I think that may come back to haunt some of those businesses that are doing that, quite frankly. But it's such a new thing for us that it's hard to tell whether or not how this is all going to work out long term. At least in my business. A majority of the people that work in a manufacturing role have to be there every day. You can't run a plant without people being there. So it's just not an option for us, but most of us in manufacturing. But can you not have a physical corporate headquarters anymore and, director levels up? Probably.
I mean, and when you look at individuals with low morale, I mean, there used to be a box, okay, of company policy. And now that box is expanding, fraying, holes are being punched in it. How do you balance the needs of those with low morale, but just need that encouragement, but they got all types of personal issues against those, and so they need special assistance with things, but they produce. They're good people. They're good workers against those that follow policy and get everything done to the same level.
Yeah, it's a very thin tightrope to walk, right? And it's I mentioned it earlier. It's really kind of new to us, and at least new to myself and the people that are my colleagues in. At the manufacturing executive level is that it's we're struggling to do that, but we're learning every day. There are some people that you just can't do anything for, right? And they're going to come and they're going to go, and hopefully you can replace them with someone that's as good or better. But flexibility right now is the mantra, right? We try everything we can do to be as flexible as we can be.
So as far as coaching, encouraging, and creating a vision, I think there is a balance there in the creating a vision portion, because if too much vision is shared with people, they don't necessarily see themselves as being part of the vision. How do you suggest that people communicate vision and at the same time communicate it in a way to the workforce that people see their part in it?
This is a great point here. And I tell you what I do. What I do is I try to break down a person's role in the company as their portion is their business, right? I encourage people to treat their job like it's their business, right? So you break down the vision to their level, right? And say, here's the vision for this manufacturing cell, or here's the vision for this store. Here's the vision for, whatever, right? This accounting department. You could, and you talk a little bit about the bigger vision, the higher level stuff that's up here, but try to break it down to what the employee is directly impacting in their job, and break it down to that level. And that helps them with that vision, because they can say, I know if we do X, Y, Z, the outcome is going to be this, right? And you coach and encourage to that level. That's what I found the most success in, is coaching to the level of their business unit, right? And what it is that they're doing. Because if you stay up at the top at the 10,000 foot view, you're going to get a lot of confusion in terms of, talking about profitability numbers and all these things that they don't really see that they affect a whole lot, right?
Well, and sometimes when you start talking about profitability, people are like, oh, well, that's just for, Mr. Thus and such, who, it's their company and they want to make money. And I've tried to explain to people, I'm like, yeah, but don't you realize when ownership is making money, if ownership has integrity, that is good for everyone in an organization? I mean, I've heard so many people talking about their employer like their employer is selfish and out to get them. I've looked at people and said, why do you work there? The world is your oyster right now. Go find another role.
Absolutely. And the world is our oyster right now. And if you're not happy, go find another role. But I don't know anybody in business that's not in business to make money. And so, that's what we're all here to do. We could sit and explain to people all day that, I poured 95% of my personal savings into my newest startup, and I'm putting everything at risk for it. And I'm looking to get a return. Right. And sometimes that hits a little high up the ladder for a lot of people. So you just have to have conversations that break it down to their level, where they're at and what they're doing, and what the impact on running efficiently and profitably means to them.
So when people hear things like you put 95% of your personal savings into a startup, I'm going to ask you a question that people may say, why is he asking this question? But I think you know. Which streaming services do you subscribe to, and how much time do you spend watching them?
Yeah, so YouTube is a big one. For me personally, I'm on Facebook just like everybody else, but a lot of YouTube, and it's changed over the years, right? I mean, I know people personally back before YouTube, Facebook started really kind of clamping down in terms of what you can build on their platforms that have amassed great wealth in their personal business through YouTube and Facebook. Unfortunately now, right, YouTube and Facebook says, well, hey, they can't keep making money like this on our platform without us getting a little piece of it, right? So they start throttling you and these sorts of things. But yeah, I've spent a fair amount of time on YouTube myself, and And it's a shame, but you just say, these are the platforms that people utilize every single day. So you got to be out there in social media for sure.
Well, and it's funny because when I asked you the question, what I was alluding to was Netflix, Hulu, Prime,
I got all
HBO
those.
Max.
Yep.
And and truth be told, we have Amazon Prime, therefore we have Prime Video. We have Hulu because I got Disney, and you can watch some things afterwards. We got rid of Netflix a long time ago. We have AT&T cell phone service, so we get HBO Max for free. And here's the thing: when people post on social media and say, "What should I binge watch next?" all I think to myself is, "What is wrong with you? What are you spending all that time binge watching stupid stuff?" Like you, I go to YouTube and watch instructional videos for things that I am putting my hand to for my own family, or motivational videos for, guys like Dan Pena or Evan Carmichael, who's also there. There's Evan Carmichael. There's Dan Pena. Motivational videos that are instructional to keep me from watching. You've seen me walking down the street with my phone up like this while I'm walking Solomon doing a video. I don't get people that just sit and binge watch. Do they have such a low vision for their own life that they'd rather watch something imaginary all the time?
Yeah. I'm watching Anthony Fazella or Grant Cardone. I've spent a lot of time on his videos.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just, which is not to say that I don't ever watch something for entertainment, but these people who sit down every single night and watch something, I just don't understand it.
Yeah, no, I've got those streaming services for my wife and children, not for me. I don't watch a whole lot of TV.
So you and I have talked about putting your team in a winning situation. What is your 3-point plan for putting your team in a winning situation?
Yeah. So, we talked about this before, and I don't know that I have a 3-point plan, but what I do know is this: in these challenging times, there's a lot of pressure that comes down from executive or corporate leadership in any company, right? To maintain focus, maintain profitability, maintain production efficiency, and these sort of things. And we can sometimes fall in a trap in which we're putting our people that we lead in a position where they can't win. And in my personal opinion, the worst thing you can do to your team is put them in a position where they're going to lose.
Yeah.
And it's even worse if they know they're going to lose. And I'll keep it kind of in the manufacturing realm, right? If you say, I can get 1,000 of these widgets a day off of this production line, and that is with great effort from the people that I lead, and I ask them to do 1,500 widgets a day, the people on the line who know the most about the production process know that they cannot hit 1,500. And that gets us back to the morale thing, right? You've set them up and put them in a position that they know they're going to lose. That impacts morale tremendously, in my opinion. And I really don't think that we should ever put our teams in a situation where they're going to lose. We should always put them in a situation where they can win. And as leaders, if we're getting that pressure, we have to go back upstream and be very concise and tactical in the way that we communicate with our leadership, to be able to say, look, we're putting ourselves in a position where we're going to lose, and it's going to cost us. And it's going to cost us in morale. It's going to cost us in potentially retention, these sort of things. Because everybody, I don't care where you're at in life, whether you're just a regular person cooking hamburgers at McDonald's, or if you're a rocket scientist, everybody wants to win at what they do.
Yes.
And if we as leaders put them in situations where they can't win, we're going to lose them.
So when someone wins, what do you do as the leader to encourage them on to the next win?
Yeah. So again, it gets back to that skin to skin, right? We have to keep them up to date on where they're at, right? And at my business, we kind of use a sports analogy. If we win in January, we're 1-0, right?
Yeah.
If we lose in February, we're 1-1. But in my opinion, you have to concisely and clearly define what the win is and what it'll take to get there, right? And then when we do win, we celebrate. Whether that's just standing in a circle and clapping together and patting each other on the back, or an employee cookout of some sorts. There's a million ways that you can do that. I just passed out like 500 Yeti cups not too long ago, and they're really small tokens, right? But for a lot of people, that they're meaningful. And when you give them, they have to be meaningful, and you have to express thanks, and make sure that they understand that they're adding to the long-term longevity of the company.
So where do you think, and I've heard you kind of talk about this, communication falls in that role? You talk about the skin to skin. How important is the cascading of information throughout an organization, communicating wise, from top to bottom, to get everyone to buy in and improve morale?
It's absolutely critical, and I've seen it. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've seen it time and time again. You go out and you do an employee survey, whether it's through SurveyMonkey or something of that, or if it's more informal than that, and you say, what is your biggest challenge as a worker? And almost every time, lack of communication is going to be right up at the top.
Yeah.
And because people want to know what's going on, because our jobs are critical to who we are, right? And the lifestyle that we lead, whatever lifestyle you have, your job is critical to that. We all work for money, right? We don't work for fun, but it's cool to have fun while we're working, right?
Absolutely.
But we have to, but communication is absolutely key. And like I said, every organization I've been in, when we've done the surveys, lack of communication is always in the top 3 in terms of gripes or complaints of team members. So it's always a struggle to figure out how you do that better, but you got to keep grinding at it every single day.
So finally, we've talked about a lot of things today, and you've been a great guest. You're a wealth of information, and you're so even-keeled. I love having even-keeled people on the show, because I'm a little more tightly wound than most. What I'd like you to do now is to wrap things up, take the next few minutes and talk to the viewers here and those that'll be watching this on replay about the most important job any leader has.
So, boy, that's a broad question, but to me, the most important job that a leader has is to recognize potential in their employees and work to facilitate the growth of that potential in the people that you lead. At the same time, be a present leader. Okay. Not a person that's up in the C-suite. Don't be afraid to get your white shirt dirty. Mm-hmm. And what's big for me is not always being willing to do whatever it is I'm asking somebody else to do, right? Whether that's take out the trash, climb in a machine, turn wrenches, all of those sorts of things. But the more present that you are in your teams, and the more coaching and counseling that you provide in an even-keeled manner, right?
Right.
As not critical, but value-added feedback. Over time, I think that you'll win every time if you keep that up and you keep investing in your team. And also, so take some servant leadership type training. And even though I don't wholly buy into the servant leadership mantra, but a lot of it is good stuff. And be even keeled and fair. right? As a leader, that to me, that's the key to success. Is feedback to the team, be fair, make sure that you're giving back and what the expectations of your team is of you, and making sure that you provide clear and concise feedback on what your expectation of them are. And if you're clear and concise of what your expectations are, I think you win a lot.
Awesome. Shannon, thank you so much for being my guest today. We've covered a lot of ground. I think that people need to go back, listen to this, and I think there's something there for everyone, whether you are a team member, a team leader, or somewhere in between. There were great bits of knowledge sprinkled throughout this that people can use to increase their wisdom and have an understanding. So thank you again for being on the show.
My pleasure.
You bet. And everyone else, that was Litvak Leadership Live for today. We'll be back next week. And hey, next week, going to have Rev Ciano and Eric Bam on the show. And we're going to talk about marketing, business marketing, personal marketing, business branding, personal branding. You don't want to miss this because it looks like we're going to be virtual some more. So, this is all important to get that branding and that marketing out there. So that's it. Enjoy your weekend. Be blessed and know that life is long. See ya.